One of the biggest questions I had when finishing high school was whether or not I should continue my secular education to make video games, because a lot of the people around me who were teachers and parents were saying that to get into an industry and to get a proper paying job, I needed a piece of paper or a degree to be properly qualified. However, after looking around the games industry, a lot of people were more focused on their portfolios and presenting the work you've actually done rather than how much you paid for a piece of paper. And I know a lot of young people are probably questioning, especially if you're very passionate about video games, whether or not you actually need a proper qualification in games. And quite honestly, there isn't a straight answer for this. It does depend on your circumstance and what you want to get out of it. So today I'm going to help you decide whether or not you should or shouldn't get a degree in games. Now, just to preface this, I did actually go to university for video games. I planned on doing a bachelor, but I actually only got as far as the diploma. Not because I was failing any units or it was too hard or whatever. I just realized after a certain amount that it wasn't right for me, especially for the prices I was paying and knowing that this debt is going to be with me longer than most things in my life. Now, if money is an issue for you and you don't feel comfortable going into debt, then I highly suggest just not getting a degree in games. That is to say that you're planning on staying local. If you would like to travel overseas or you want to work for someone, for example, like Ubisoft or EA, having a bachelor or master's in something is really going to help you, especially if you're going to be moving around a lot, whether that's internationally or statewide. For a lot of these larger businesses, having a portfolio is just as important as the paper. They kind of coincide. You have to be a really big name or have quite a lot of previous experience in the industry. Or for example, if you're like me who lives in Australia, if I want to work at Ubisoft in Montreal, my chances of getting there right now are quite slim just off a portfolio if it's for, a basic role like 3D modeling or game design. It'd have to be a more extensive role like technical art and, me prove that I'm a very talented and skilled technical artist for them to actually consider me for a role. And so if you would like to move out of your country, and you're going to need visas and stuff like that from your employer, then having a degree is going to help you get that seal of approval because it makes it easier for them to show the governments that you're qualified. And just on that as well, having a degree in a local sense is also really good, especially if it's something like a bachelor, because it proves that you can finish work, you've understood basic tasks, and as much as it isn't always going to prepare you properly for the industry, you've at least proven your passion and your work ethic for getting things done. The quality of your work may be lacking quite a lot, and this is an issue that is quite rampant across the industry and in the education system when it comes to games. But if you're not looking so much for the quality of your work, but more of experience and some other things I'm going to talk about, then obviously I would go with getting a degree. One of the other things that are really good with getting degrees is networking and finding people who are interested and in your age bracket or in the same situation as you are. If you're a little confused about where to start or you don't know exactly what you want to do in games, university and getting a degree, it doesn't have to be university, but it can be at a trade school and a small certificate. It can help you understand the different disciplines in games, whether that's design, programming, art, rigging, technical stuff, a range of different skills. You can kind of get a taste for them all before you put your foot in the door into the industry. If you're someone who's already had experience making games, maybe you've made your own small games or you've worked in groups and, finished stuff before, you might be tossing up between whether or not it's going to be worth it. I know for me, that was a major factor, knowing that the first 6 months to a year is going to be quite basic and stuff I already understand. Now, we'll give you some confidence in saying that there's going to be things that you don't know that you're going to learn in your course. For example, one of the electives I had was in After Effects and motion graphics. And having pivoted to video editing and doing YouTube, that's actually been a major help for me and something I've grown to be passionate about. It wasn't anything to do with games, but I can actually use those skills now in UX and UI design thanks to this elective. And that is something I wouldn't have experienced or given myself time to had I not gone to university and had that elective kind of presented to me. Along with that, degrees help you understand the fundamentals of majority of the skills you need in the industry. Now, there are things that are not covered in the industry, whether that's VFX artists, shading, It does depend on the university, which is something else, is quite drastic and something you need to do your research and ask questions when you tour different schools. You're going to understand the basics of things. And so if you want to be an artist or a programmer, university is going to be a great way in getting your hands dirty in different disciplines as well, without as well having the risk of feeling like you wasted your time. For example, my respect for animators and the work they do grew the most when I was at university and I had to animate a bouncing ball in Maya, and the critiques that my lecturer had on my bouncing balls and moving pendulums, just basic motion. People who do that by hand and understand the math without relying on, physics systems in 3D software have my uttermost respect because of the talent and skill and craft that they have for animation. And with that as well, a lot of the stuff you're going to learn in schools to do with games isn't going to make you a professional or expert in anything. You'll be able to have experiences and obviously grow. I've seen that looking at some of my portfolio work. I've learnt so much and my skills have improved drastically since starting university to where I am now, having left, nearly a year now. A lot of your self-improvement is going to come from you yourself and the feedback you get from lecturers. They technically are going to teach you how to get better, but the expertise that you're going to have is only going to come through your own hard work and diligence. Just because you go and do a course doesn't mean you're going to be professional with that piece of paper. I do need to forewarn you, if you want to go to school to learn games, to be really careful on which school you decide to go to. I went to a private university, which was a lot more expensive, but hey, they taught games and it was, more of the performance and arts industry run trade school. But the issue with that was that they were more keen on the money than they were in actually helping me get connections. Now, there were great workshops there. They had seminars with people from like EA recruitment and local industries kind of saying, hey, we have internships next year. If you want to get into this next year, here are the things that you need to do. But especially for me, someone who ended up having to do it online for the large majority, I felt quite isolated from my group. And well, here's another thing about doing games in school. If you don't go to the right school, not only are your lecturers not going to be motivated to really teach you, you're also going to have classmates that are not interested in the course. And I know this doesn't make much sense, but a lot of people, especially those who are younger, will come out of school, not know what to do, and pick games because either they're playing games or it's something completely different, and they go into it and they for me, at least in my experience, they're kind of just taken aback by all the work that's involved and how confusing everything is, and they don't have the passion that some of us do. I felt, and I hate saying this because I feel so petty, but I felt like a know-it-all because I had love for the art form and the industry, and I already knew the game engines, and I'd already experienced stuff in C#, and I already modeled in Blender, and I knew what a UV unwrap was and what physically based rendering was and how to do all these textures and all that stuff. And so when we were covering it, I felt really bad in, presenting my work because everyone else was still learning farther back. And that's another thing, if you feel like you're going to get left behind because the lecturers are going to focus more on those who need the help than you, who obviously still has a hold on it, you kind of think, hang on, why am I wasting $3,000 a class, a coursework, a unit, if you're just going to tell me, good job, you're good at this. So university is good, and it helped me understand and build confidence in myself in knowing that, hey, I'm at a junior role, but I'm not as bad as I thought I was. So, if you need a confidence boost, sure, do a short little course, understand where you are at. So doing a course is great if a job description you want in the future, asks you to have it. If you want to network, whether that's with people your age to, form your own studio one day, or to do projects together, or to get connections to the industry. I had some awesome lecturers who actually worked on stuff like Deus Ex, amazing game designer who worked on a bunch of games and had so many awesome stories, and it was just so exciting each class to sit down and listen to him and how the industry changed and how as a game designer he, different problems happened and what it was like working with, toxic people and amazing people and all these sorts of things, and how supportive he was of newer people coming into the industry. Like, that stuff is so good, and I'm so grateful I was able to experience that. And if that's something that you want, and you feel like an imposter basically, not getting stuff out of, for example, co-working spaces, or to get a job in the industry right away, university is going to be a great step for you to go from having that passion and transitioning all of that into something that you can actually present in the industry as a proper role and talent and skill that you have as a future employee, or either self-employed as a sole trader, or as an employee of a game studio. However, if you feel self-motivated and that you can, make your own games or improve your skills as whatever discipline you choose to, through online tutorials, through Udemy classes, through asking feedback from, people in the industry, because there are those people who, if you respect their time and, are kind and thoughtful, they will give you feedback on your work and they will help you. If you go to game events, stuff like GDC, there's going to be local things for you, in the games industry. Find out what those places are. And the best thing I feel like you can do to really decide whether or not you need a secular education in games is to go to a co-working space or find a group of game developers. Don't just get an opinion from one person. Talk to a range of different people from different sizes of studios. It's best to talk in person, so a co-working space, or, contacting someone being like, hey, I'd like to get into games. Is there a way I can meet you all on a lunch break and talk about, kind of what I'd like to do? Again, be very careful with that. Respect their time. They are a business, and you don't want your name to be on some blacklist. Don't contact this person because they're going to be a time waster. Or even save up some money and talk to a consultant and say, hey, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I'd like to do, and get feedback and understand, okay, I want games to be my career, what should I do? Because at the end of the day, I got a mixed range of different messages, and they all changed on what my end goal was. If I wanted to be independent and stay local, then it was completely fine to build a portfolio, to do courses online, like on Udemy or on YouTube, and to just get feedback from friends and family and people and whatever, and eventually grow into the point where I could get a job. But as soon as I started talking about bigger corporations and getting higher salaries and working overseas, then that's when the degrees came a little more important. Or if I wanted to work in a small team, if I wanted to network with people with the same skill set as me, a lot of them are obviously going to be at schools learning how to make games because that's what they want to do, and they're the same age as you, or they're at the same level, because I know age differences are quite different. I actually had someone who was a builder in my course, and he wanted to change careers from being a carpenter to someone who worked in games. And so if you have the drive to make your own games or to learn your own discipline, then I think it is completely possible to make it in the industry without a degree. Portfolio is going to be one of the most important things you're going to present to people, as well as yourself. If you can go to workshops where you learn how to be more presentable and communicate clearly to people, that's something that you would learn at university. But if you can try and find those things you want to get out of university at other places, I would definitely suggest it, because it saves a lot of the headache and struggle from going into debt, doing pointless courses, dealing with frustrating people, and just at the end of the day feeling like you got ripped off. If, for example, you're in America and there's a university or college, as you guys call it, nearby, and there's a game studio that usually goes to that certain game course to hire new recruits, then I completely suggest doing that, because that is something that's going to help you start your career. Once your foot's in the door, then it's going to be a lot easier. I'm still trying to get my foot in the door when it comes to the games industry. Of course, I'm making stuff and I call myself a game developer, but I still haven't got my first salary to live and provide for myself and my family in the games industry. For now, that's still in YouTube and video editing. However, if you're more remote or regional and you don't have any exposure around you to the games industry, then I would suggest you really doing your research and trying to find someone who is as close to you as possible in the industry, whether that's down the city way, a certain relative, whatever. Talk to them, really explain your process, what you want to be, what you want to do, And, in the games industry, we're quite supportive and they'll definitely give you some really good advice. Honestly, right now, I feel like I've given all the advice I can in a more general sense. Now it's time for you to go and do some more research and really understand what is the best decision for you. I hope this helped a little bit for some people. I hope you can kind of show your parents this and say, hey, I don't need to go and get a degree to work in games, because you don't. However, do your research, talk to people who understand where you want to be in the future, and they will help you get there. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. If I helped in any way, or you enjoyed this video and want to see more, then please do hit subscribe. And also watch some of my other game dev tips. I've got a good little playlist going. You can binge through those if you enjoyed this. And if you would like to support the channel and myself, then head over to the link in the description where you can buy my mug with my little avatar on it. That money goes towards editing these videos and producing this content. That's all from me. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time.
Whoa!